Have you ever noticed how some people stay in your thoughts even when they haven't said a word? Their names pop into your head without a single message, a single call. That isn't coincidence. It's psychology. And today, you're going to discover how to make him think about you without ever texting him first. But let's get something straight from the beginning. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding what makes someone truly unforgettable. Stay with me, because by the end, I'll share a technique so simple, yet so effective, it'll make you impossible to ignore. Let's start with a truth that's hard to hear. Chasing attention never works. The more you reach out, the more predictable you become. And when you're predictable, you lose your spark. That's just how the brain works. We think most about what we don't completely have. That's why people linger in our minds when they create just enough space. But here's the good news. You don't need to ignore him or play cold. You just need to understand the psychology of attraction. Think about it. When were you last truly drawn to someone? It wasn't because they messaged you constantly. It was because their energy lingered. Maybe it was their confidence, the way they moved, the calm in their presence. That's what sticks with us. Not the words, not the texts, but the feeling they leave behind. That's what you're about to master. Right now, maybe you're wondering, if I don't text first, won't he forget about me? The answer is no. In fact, stepping back might be what makes him think about you more. Why? Because the human brain doesn't like unfinished business. It remembers the unresolved. When you stop chasing, you become the open loop in his mind, the question without an answer. And psychologically, people are attracted to what they can't fully have. It's the scarcity principle. The less available something is, the more valuable it becomes. So here's your first move. Stop proving your worth. Stop trying to be seen. Because when you truly understand your own value, you don't have to prove anything. You naturally command attention. Picture this. You walk into a room, calm, confident, fully grounded. You're not obsessively checking your phone. You're not wondering when he'll reach out. You're present. And that kind of energy, it's magnetic. It makes people curious. It makes them want to be near you. And this is just the beginning, because what's coming next will completely change how you think about attraction and how you show up in your own life. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep creating powerful content that empowers and inspires. The human mind is wired for curiosity. We don't obsess over what we fully understand. We crave what feels just out of reach. That's why the people who maintain a bit of mystery tend to stay on our minds the longest. If you want to be unforgettable, you need to understand the art of controlled mystery. When you don't text first, something fascinating happens. At first, he may not notice, but as time goes on, his mind begins to wander. Why hasn't she reached out? Is she busy? Has she moved on? These thoughts don't fade. They create a loop, a question without closure. This is called the Zeigarnik effect, the brain's tendency to hold on to unfinished business. Right now, by stepping back, you become that unfinished business. You're the unresolved thought he can't shake. Think about it. How many times have you kept checking your phone hoping for a message, not because someone was texting you constantly, but because they weren't? That silence, that space, it pulls you in. That's the same thing happening in his mind when you stop initiating. But mystery doesn't mean going silent and doing nothing. It's about how you live. It's in your energy, your presence, the confidence you carry even when you're not speaking. Mystery is created by living in a way that makes people wonder what you're up to. It's the difference between answering every text immediately and taking your time, between sharing every detail of your life and leaving room for curiosity, between always checking in and simply living in your own flow. And here's the secret. You actually need to be doing something. You can't just sit around hoping he'll notice your silence. That's not mystery. That's waiting. The most magnetic people are those who are deeply engaged with their lives. They have goals, passions, and things that excite them far beyond someone else's attention. And that kind of energy, it's impossible to ignore. When you shift your focus to your own life, your own growth, your own light, something starts to change. You're no longer moving toward him. He starts moving toward you, not because you're playing hard to get, but because your energy becomes undeniably attractive. He starts to feel it. You're not waiting. You're not chasing. And that shift activates something powerful: desire. Now let's talk about control. The second you stop texting first, you take it back. You're no longer waiting on a reply to feel good. You're no longer depending on attention to feel seen. You're stepping into your power. You shift from being the one who seeks attention to being the one who is sought after. And that change, it's everything. Because people don't value what is freely given all the time. When attention is offered sparingly and meaningfully, it becomes something worth holding on to. That's the space you create now. Your presence is no longer expected. It's appreciated. Your energy isn't always available, but when it is, it's felt. And that's not manipulation. That's self-worth. You're not pulling back to trick anyone. You're pulling back because you no longer need to prove your value. You embody it. So instead of wondering what he's thinking, focus on becoming the kind of person he can't stop thinking about. When you do that, you stop being another message on his screen and you become the one that lingers in his mind. Attraction isn't about constant reminders. It's about presence, the kind that's felt even in your absence. The more you chase someone, the less space they have to think about you. But the moment you stop chasing, you create space. And in that space, curiosity begins to grow. This isn't just about going quiet. It's about triggering a natural psychological response. The human brain thrives on patterns. When you always reach out first, you become part of the pattern. Predictable, expected, and predictability might feel safe, but it doesn't spark emotion. But when you stop, that familiar rhythm disappears, and that disruption grabs attention. He senses the shift. Something feels different, and suddenly the comfort of always knowing you'll reach out is gone. That single change plants a question in his mind. Why isn't she texting? And once that question is planted, the brain can't help but search for answers. It replays past moments, overanalyzes old messages, rewinds time, trying to figure out what changed. And with each replay, one thing remains constant: you. That's how deep emotional connections are formed. Not by constantly being there, but by leaving a noticeable absence that makes someone feel. But here's where people make the biggest mistake. They think stepping back means doing nothing. It doesn't. Your absence only holds weight if your presence had value. This means the moments you did share, the conversations, the energy, the way you made him feel, those things have to matter. Because if your presence didn't leave an impression, your absence won't either. So before you pull back, ask yourself, did I show up with depth? Did I connect in a way that left a mark? Because that's the real secret. When you've created real emotional moments, ones that made him feel something deeper, pulling back doesn't make you disappear. It makes you unforgettable. Think about the last person who left an impression on you. It wasn't because they overwhelmed you with texts. It was the feeling they left behind, the way they made you laugh, the way they held space for you, the way they moved through life with confidence without needing anything from you. That's the energy you need to own. Because when someone remembers how you made them feel, they chase that feeling again. Still, let's be honest, stepping back is not easy. It brings up fear, doubt. What if he forgets? What if it means nothing? But the truth is, people notice what's missing. And the more you resist the urge to check in, the more noticeable your absence becomes. That space you leave, it's not emptiness. It's an invitation. It's a moment for him to step forward. And if he does, that tells you everything. If he doesn't, that tells you even more. Either way, you win because you're no longer in the position of waiting. You're not begging. You're attracting. Attraction isn't built on effort. It's built on energy. And your energy doesn't depend on someone else responding. It depends on how deeply you believe in your own worth. So remember, your value is not defined by his attention. It's defined by how you carry yourself, whether he texts back or not. So now the decision is yours. You can keep reaching out, over-explaining, giving your energy away, hoping for a reply. or you can pull back, reclaim your power, and let him feel the silence you leave behind. Because that silence, it speaks louder than any message ever could. People don't remember everything you said. They remember how you made them feel. And when your presence carried depth, your absence carries weight. You don't need to text him to stay on his mind. You need to create emotions that linger when you're gone. That's what makes the difference between someone who's interesting for a moment and someone who becomes unforgettable. Attraction isn't logical. It's emotional. The mind attaches to feelings, not facts. If he remembers you, it won't be because of a clever message. It'll be because of how you made him feel. A moment, a glance, a laugh he didn't expect. Something he can't shake. Most people never create that kind of impact. They rely on surface-level interaction. Quick replies, shallow conversation, constant contact. But that's not what lasts. Depth is what lingers. So ask yourself, what emotion do you leave behind? When he thinks about you, does he feel challenged, inspired, intrigued? Or do you blend into the background like everyone else? This is where most people get it wrong. They think attraction is about being present all the time, but real attraction is about creating an experience, one that sticks. People are drawn to what makes them feel alive, and that feeling doesn't come from repetition. It comes from unpredictability, from a sense of mystery, from emotional highs. That's why emotional triggers are so powerful. The brain clings to moments that made it feel something real. It replays them, trying to make sense of it all, trying to relive it. If you can create those moments, you won't need to be around. You'll already be in his mind. But don't mistake this for playing games. You don't get there by pretending. You don't get there by being cold or calculated. You get there by being so authentic, so grounded in who you are that it interrupts his world. That's what makes someone unforgettable. It's not about texting, it's about presence. You want him to feel something when he thinks of you. Maybe it was the honesty in your eyes, the pause between your words, the spark in your laugh. Whatever it is, it leaves a question behind, a curiosity that doesn't go away. Confidence plays the biggest role here, and real confidence isn't about saying the right thing. It's about the energy you leave behind when you walk away. When you know your worth, you don't need to chase. You don't need to explain. You don't need to check your phone 100 times hoping he noticed your silence. Because when you've created something meaningful, the absence of it is undeniable. That's the moment he realizes your presence wasn't ordinary. It was something he can't replace. Most people miss this truth. Real attraction isn't about always being seen. It's about being felt. It's not the message you send. It's the energy you carry. When someone feels something around you they can't quite explain, that's when you become unforgettable. And the more you try to be remembered, the less space you leave to actually be missed. But when you focus on becoming someone worth remembering, everything shifts. It all starts with self-focus. Not the kind that pretends to move on while secretly hoping for a message. Not the kind that steps back just to see if he notices. That's still chasing, just in disguise. And people can feel that energy, even when it's silent. True detachment comes when you no longer need a response. When your emotions aren't tied to whether someone texts you or not, that's when your energy becomes powerful, because now you're not waiting, you're growing, you're creating a life that inspires you. People are drawn to that. Here's what human nature tells us. We don't value what is always available. We value what feels like it could be lost. The second you stop trying to be seen, the moment you stop proving yourself, you become a mystery. You become someone they start to notice because they're unsure if they still have access to you. That uncertainty, it activates desire, not because you're being manipulative, but because you're finally honoring yourself. And here's the powerful part. When someone realizes you were adding real value to their life and they sense that you might actually be gone, they start to reflect. They don't just think about what you said, they think about what they felt around you, what they might never feel again. That's what makes someone linger in the mind, not persistence, not presence, but absence that meant something. When you're strong enough to walk away, not to get a reaction, but to protect your peace, you no longer stay on his mind as an option. You become a standard, the kind of presence that doesn't need validation, the kind that speaks volumes by simply stepping back. That's the difference between someone who is forgotten and someone who becomes the one they compare everyone else to. So if you're wondering how to stay on his mind without ever texting first, this is it. You don't stay by forcing attention. You stay by becoming unforgettable. And that doesn't come from doing more. It comes from becoming more present, more self-assured, more fulfilled. The most attractive thing you can be is someone who doesn't need to be chosen to know they're valuable. So choose yourself so completely, so unapologetically that your energy speaks even when your voice is silent. That's what makes you impossible to forget. There comes a point when the most powerful thing you can do is walk away, not to make a statement, not to trigger a reaction, but to protect your peace. Because you've done the work, you've stopped chasing, you've stopped proving, and now you simply choose yourself. That's when you become truly unforgettable. People don't remember the ones who tried the hardest to stay. They remember the ones who had the strength to let go, the ones who could say, I deserve more, and actually mean it. And meaning, it means letting go, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically. It's deciding that your worth doesn't depend on someone else's response. It's knowing that if someone really saw your value, they would never let you go. This is basic human psychology. The brain values what feels scarce. When you're no longer easily available, you force someone to confront what they had and what they might lose. That's not manipulation, that's alignment, because by the time you've reached this point, you're no longer looking back. You're no longer seeking validation. You're moving forward. Now, you're not the person waiting to be chosen. You're the one who chooses. And that's the energy that lingers, not desperation, not silence with a hidden agenda, but quiet strength, self-respect, purpose, the kind of energy people remember because it makes them reflect. You don't stay on his mind by trying. You stay because you became someone who didn't have to. Not the one who sent the perfect text, not the one who explained her worth, but the one who walked away without needing closure because her life was already full. And here's the truth. He will remember you. Not because you asked to be remembered, but because he'll feel your absence every time he meets someone who doesn't measure up to the way you made him feel. You're not just another person who came and went. You're the standard. Because when you finally understand your own value, when you realize that your presence is a privilege, not something to be begged for, you stop being an option. You become the comparison, not because you demanded it, but because your energy, your growth, your refusal to settle, that's what people remember. And when you embrace that truth, when you stop trying to be remembered, you become exactly that, unforgettable. If this message moved you or shifted your perspective, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's not just support. It's a statement that you're choosing growth, self-worth, and real power. And if someone in your life needs to hear this, share it with them. You never know who you might be helping today.